Hi, it's Kim from the Shamrock Quilt Studio. I'm ready to get hand quilting on our Miss Karen project. We put this on the frame last week and I'm ready to pick up right where we left off and get started on it. We'll be right back. Hi, so glad you could join me today. Now we're going to be working on the hand quilting for our Miss Karen project. We got this loaded on the frame and we've already marked the cross hatch on the design. So we're ready to get started. I've got a straight line so I can keep it straight, but I also want my stitches to be even. I've got a piece of gridded mylar here that will help me keep those stitches as even as I can. Now I've decided to start right here. This is a little small section at the bottom, and we're just going to start it here where the bud is in our flower, and we're going to put our knot underneath that. So we're going to go in from this side and we're going to come out right where that bud ends. So we'll bury that knot up underneath that design. Okay, and our thread is coming out here, and we're going to take little stitches that are about 1/8 of an inch. And like I said, we've got that line of the marking already on here, and then we just use the gridded mylar to keep us even, and that also keeps us straight too. But we're just going to stitch down a few inches. Now I find when I first start hand quilting, either on a particular project or even just hand quilting that day, I struggle a bit when I first start. It's like my brain has completely forgotten how to do this, and it takes a little bit to get back in the swing of things. Everything feels awkward, but then once I start going, maybe after a dozen stitches, then it begins to feel familiar. And as they say, what? Just like riding a bike? Well, kind of, sort of. Your body, your fingers, your eyes, everything begins to remember exactly what it was like and what worked well and what didn't. So we're just going to sew a little bit here, and then we'll talk about it. This is probably 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 inches that we're stitching. It's a short little section. And today I'm really focused on getting some videos done, and so I'm not going to be able to spend a lot of time on this today, but enough to show you what we're doing. And now if you're using a rocking stitch, you're going to rock from the top, and you'll just use your non-dominant hand to feel for that needle coming through. I'm unable to do that. Well, that's not really true. I'm able to do it. I'm just not any good at it. Every time I try to do it, it comes out to be a mess. My stitches aren't even. So we've got about 5 inches here that we're sewing. It's just going to be enough for us to get a feel for this and how it's done. And if you notice, we might have had a little change of focus on our other camera because the battery died. It's one of those days that anything that can go wrong or slow you down is. But we're just going to persevere and move forward and see what happens. So my stitches are about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a tad bigger on the top, and 1/8 of an inch or maybe a tad smaller on the bottom. And that's really, I'm not really trying to be fast or fancy or anything like that. I'm just looking for that pretty consistent length. And you'll just want to watch your guide to make sure it doesn't shift as you go along. Okay, we are just about at the end. Now, as I reach the end of the white fabric, this is where I have a choice. Either I stop it and knot it off and tuck that knot underneath the ends, or, let me show you. I've got another line that goes right here. And what I can do is I can have that thread come back up right at the edge of that green piece. So it's right here. Can you see that? You might not can see it. There we go. Right here. So then I'm going to take it and I'm going to make just a little tiny stitch and try to come back really close to where we were. That's going to kind of secure that and keep it from pulling free. And then we're going to go back down kind of underneath that green piece. And bring that needle back up right where that new line will start. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put just a little loop, a little stitch in. We're going to try to make it as invisible as possible. There we go. All right, and we're ready to go back up. Now here's this line of stitches that we made, and it looks nice and even. We can feel on the back there's nothing crazy going on back there. So that's just one line of stitches, and we've got a lot to do. But it does go really quickly. And something like this is really easy for a project where maybe you only have 10 or 15 minutes that you can come and sew. Just leave that thread attached if you have a direction that you can go on. And when you have that 10 or 15 minutes to pop in here, then you could stitch up this way. And just keep going however it makes sense to you to go. Now, with this being on the frame, keep in mind though that you need to sew this section before you can roll it. So don't get way up here and then decide to roll it and then, uh-oh, we forgot some stitches down here. You need to work from the bottom up. And you can either do that with one needle and thread, or you could have multiple going. And the other trick that I use is I use straight pins with colored heads. If I'm working on something really detailed and I have to cut my thread, I will leave that colored head pin in my design so I can quickly tell where I left off and where I need to start the next time. We're not going to be quilting over the applique, we're only quilting the background of this white fabric. And I've got some threads there I need to get out. I hope that this was helpful to you. We've covered hand quilting in a couple of shows, and I know not everyone hand quilts, but there may be sometimes, even if that's not your preferred way to quilt, that you find yourself in a situation where it really makes sense to do, or it might be something new that you wanted to try. I think that it's always great to try something new when we're working on a hobby or something we love to do, so that we learn a little bit each and every time. I want to make sure that you've got a nice sharp shot at that stitch line before we go. Let's see, can we get it any closer? We are as close as we can get it. But there it is right there. And it's, if I say so myself, I think it's a pretty nice looking row of stitches. And when we get this all done, it's really going to make this applique pop. Thanks so much for joining me today on this really short video talking about hand quilting. And we'll continue on this project. We'll probably take a break now from the weekly shows and go to more of maybe a once a month or twice a month update. I don't think it's going to take me very long to get this quilted, and so we'll move that along pretty quickly. And then once I get the crosshatch quilted, then we need to decide on the design for the borders. Thanks again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this. If you got anything out of it all, give us a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next week at the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Bye.